podcast.
Development proceeding. Acquire
Episode of The Rewinders.
Abner Ravenwood, U.S.
Nazis have discovered
Podcasts.
Just what does that mean to you?
Podcasts.
Well,
city of
Podcast.
one of the possible resting places of the Lost Ark.
the Lost Ark.
Yeah, the Ark of the Covenant, the chest the Hebrews used to carry around the Ten Commandments.
What do you mean, Ten Commandments? You're talking about the Ten Commandments?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Joe.
I'm Ken.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Dan.
We're the Rewinders podcast, rewinding and rebooting movies to see if they hold up. And this time, we are opening Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
So I'm going to preface this. I completely forgot that we had to watch this movie, and I was laying in bed, and I'm like, there's something I'm supposed to do today. That was at 11:30 last night. I got to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, I've been there.
Because I forgot how god-awful long this movie is.
This is a long movie.
Just when you think it's done, there's more.
Oh, wait,
It
there's
happens
more.
twice. Yeah. Packing up the Ark, getting on the
hey.
boat. Oh, nope, not done yet.
They definitely tried to enable the 3-act set, or however many acts that was. I haven't counted.
9.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
So I'm sure we all have a history with this movie, I'm
Oh,
assuming.
of course. How could you not?
Yes.
I guess. It's a movie
What?
I've watched.
What? What?
So are you not a big Indiana Jones fan, Dan?
Not nearly as much as Rothy.
Oh.
I mean, that's
Like,
hard.
I am, but, like, it doesn't hold a particularly soft place in my heart.
You chose poorly.
Wait, was
Not
that the one
yet,
we were
that's
supposed to watch?
later.
It's the wrong movie.
No, we were supposed to watch Temple of Doom. I thought that's where we were starting off.
No!
We had to talk about this.
We discussed this
At
at length. Yes.
I thought we discussed Machete Order, damn it. Anyways.
Right, Machete's not even on our list, but that one was rebooted.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Oh, man, that's like early 2000s.
Can't
Yeah,
watch that yet.
Actually, late 2000s,
Oh, man.
because it was after Grindhouse, so it would have been like 2009, 2010.
Yeah, that's true. It was after
Anyway.
Grindhouse. That was a fun movie theater
Anyway.
experience. Anyways, so yeah, trailer for this film after nostalgic moments. So Dan has no attachment. Ken, I know you enjoy Indy. You dressed as him.
I didn't say
So
I didn't
that means
enjoy it.
several
Come on
times.
now.
No, Dan hates Indiana
I
Jones.
do not hate Indiana Jones.
I-
I like Indiana Jones.
I mean-
I like Indiana Jones so much I enjoyed young Indiana Jones.
That's right.
Whoa.
That's right.
Oof.
I don't know, Joe, your attachment to Indy?
I've seen all of the movies except what I consider into the reboot or re-jumped, 20 years later, try it again kind of
Oh,
thing.
no.
I haven't seen those.
Oh no.
Yeah, you haven't seen the Crystal Skull?
Oh, no.
Oh no,
Okay.
Joe.
Don't
I
do it, Joe.
envy you.
Don't
I
watch
envy
it.
you so much
It's
because
so bad.
I always held the Indiana Jones movies as a perfect fucking trilogy. And the perfect capstone, and like the example for everything else for me personally was The Last Crusade. The Last Crusade was an absolutely phenomenal movie to cap off a trilogy, and it was incredible knowing that those 3 movies existed. I always thought back fondly and thought, wow, they really finished those movies perfectly. And then Crystal Skull came roaring on the screen and just...
And then you found out what perfection could be.
I am going to watch Crystal Skull for this podcast.
I'm so excited for you. I'm so
so
excited
sorry
for
for
you.
Let's say, Joe,
Okay,
you're
no,
going to
no,
have
no.
the benefit of having their anger at the movie.
You will enjoy this movie up until the last 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
I'd say maybe a little longer. It's pretty much like right when... Okay, so... No spoilers without spoiling. I mean, the beginning, it's a little bit funky, and it makes you feel weird, but I would say a little longer than the last, because the second they start going through the jungle,
Yes.
and some of the questionable effects on that, that's when
And
it
that's
starts
when it
getting
goes
to
off
me.
the rails. Yeah.
Yeah. Not just the last, like, part where everybody's like, whoa, what the fuck? It's that whole last jungle transition scene.
I'm gonna assume we're gonna need a whole episode just for
Oh,
Crystal
for
Skull
sure. For sure.
Yeah, that's a movie I have things to say
Yes,
about.
I have a lot of very dirty things.
There were things of questionable origin in before even the jungle scene. However, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, watching this movie and then the crazy stuff that he got up to in Crystal Skull, you can definitely see where people are like, no, that's... I mean, they take the suspension of disbelief to brand new levels.
And I know this is a different medium, but I can definitely feel that with Tomb Raider, the video games. So I played the original remake, the one that came out for... God, when was that? Like 2014, 2013? Whatever that was. I loved that game. It was a great origin story for Lara Croft, and it got things off to a great start, and it was good. Suspension of disbelief was kind of like 50-50. Yeah, there were some over-the-top scenes, but it's good. For the first time, I don't know why the hell I chose to pop this in. Maybe it's because I just watched Indiana Jones. I threw in the sequel to that. Not Rise of the Tomb Raider, but the one in between. And I started playing that yesterday. Within the first 15 minutes alone of that game, you've got her falling out of trucks that are being blown up by helicopters, immediately careening off of a freaking ice shelf and things like that, and just an avalanche coming at her and all this crazy crap. And that's seriously about the first 15-20 minutes. It's like the woman can't get into a vehicle, drive down the road without it being blown up. Exactly. And it's just like, that's a perfect example of like the difference between old Indiana Jones versus Crystal Skull, because it's just like, well, how do we all do what we already did? Maybe you don't always have to. My little side rant, I'm sorry. I was in disbelief.
It's all part of it.
So I enjoyed the trailer. Just to bring us into focus, I really enjoyed the trailer. I feel like the trailer did a really good job of making me want to watch this movie, even though I've already watched this
I would
movie.
agree. I think the only thing that I would say is that the trailer seemed a little bit more heavy towards the horror aspect. It felt more like a horror movie being advertised versus an adventure film. I mean, yeah, you got the shots at the end with Indy running and in the jungle and tribes and stuff like that, so that's cool. But overall, it just had this really wicked horror tone with the music, with the way that they actually like showed some of the scenes cropped up. It was just, I don't know. I felt like it was playing really heavily on the horror aspect.
I say, to be fair, there is a lot of what would be horror imagery.
Oh, absolutely. But when taken into the grand scheme context of the entire runtime, it's so minimal. I mean, you have the snakes, you have, the ending scene, things like that, but it's overall not that type of movie.
Yeah, it's also not played off to be horror. It's played off to be scary. It's played off to be like, there's real threats here.
They're Nazis, Ken.
That's a whole other thing. I was talking about the snakes.
Oh,
Nazi
snakes.
Nazi monkeys.
That right there is probably one of the
yeah.
points that I have that I like about this movie. It's supposed to be a period film, but the way that it plays, it could be any time.
Except there's
Nazis.
Except there's Nazis.
And Nazis, Hitler.
There's Nazis and old planes and old cars.
They could be easily replaced with a different bad guy. Like, the Nazis they're not overtly Nazi, except for the few times that you see a swastika. Like, you don't see guys in SS suits. They're just in military
Regular
garb.
soldier.
Yeah, when you really look at it, I mean, the Nazis, yes, they are a villain in this movie, and they are evil, obviously, and they need to be stopped. But I mean, I'd argue that Belloc is the main villain.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, and he's just a Frenchman.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the Nazis are just a way for him to get the power to be able to continue what he's doing, which is what he does in this movie. Actually, yeah, we can get to that when things I like. I didn't watch the trailer. I forgot. Go figure. It's been a few months. I'm good.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of a voiceover
Yeah.
that goes through the whole
Yeah.
thing. So that part
thank
of it,
goodness I didn't watch it.
I kind of got bored because it was a long trailer and the voice just didn't let anything happen. There were no scenes just being themselves.
And the repeats. I think I counted 2. I could be wrong, but just the exclamation out of absolutely nowhere of just Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's just, I giggled the second time it happened. It's like, okay, cool. He's shouting the name of the film, shouting it out. But yeah, it was a pretty mediocre voiceover, I'd say.
Oh,
So are you telling me that they did the modern podcast of the advertisements where they have to say the website or wherever you're supposed to go to 5 times in a row.
Yeah.
Just so you remember it.
Yep.
So who wants to pitch this movie? No one.
Who did it last? Was it Rothy?
I did.
Ken. And then Rothy did the one before.
I don't think so. I haven't done one in a while.
Did I do the one before?
I think you did the one before.
I don't. Whoa, so is it my turn?
It's either Joe or Randy.
All right,
Okay.
I can do it.
Because next time, I know for sure mine's next time.
All right.
Which is okay, because I can totally do a step for the next video. I got plans!
All right, gentlemen, you want to make a movie?
Yeah, of course. Money's at the all-time
I
lowest.
hate
We
movies,
need it.
but go ahead.
All right. I was drinking with Harrison Ford last night, and he told me that he does not get enough of punching Nazis in life. And I said,
I mean,
Harrison...
what is he talking about? He's been punching Nazis in space for years.
Said...
I mean, I guess he was using a gun, but...
Don't worry about this.
Gun punch to space Nazis.
This is 5 tequila shots in at this point. And I said, Harrison, I'll tell you what. I'll get the guys back at the studio to make a movie where you can punch Nazis. And he said, good. So I'm here. And my premise is we're going to put Harrison Ford all across the world. And why is he all across the world? Because he's got to find stuff. This is not like a Carmen Sandiego situation. This is not like a time-appropriate pop reference thing. It is an archaeological thing where he's going to go into jungles and find crazy stuff, get chased by natives. He's going to go into the desert and he's going to dig with people and he's going to find things. And in the meantime, the Nazis are going to be there and get in his way and he's going to say, not today, Nazi, and then kapow! Punch him right in the face. Sound good?
I do have a strong affinity for punching Nazis.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
Every day's a good day to punch a Nazi.
It's just the kind of American thought we need.
Cool, so we in? I figure let's throw some religion in there too, because then we get all the bases.
Yeah, but
Let's pick the most popular one in the United States. Christian theology,
you got it.
right? Perfect. And also, I guess it could be Jewish as well, because it's Old Testament.
I just have one request. Harrison Ford's coming hot off them
Yes.
Star Wars movies. How about we get something else? Maybe Tom Selleck?
If I pull this out from underneath his feet now, I'm a dead man. He will come flying over my house with an airplane and crash it into my house. I know this man. I don't want to take that risk. It's a Harrison Ford or nothing. We can soften him up with a lady sidekick kind of thing. But she doesn't have to be in the whole movie. We can just sprinkle her in here and there.
Carrie Fisher?
If she's going to be sprinkled into like this kind of stuff, she better be
Carrie
pretty
Fisher.
tough.
Let's get Carrie Fisher in this.
No.
I don't know if we're going to be able to get Carrie Fisher just from...
I was drinking with Carrie
Harrison
Fisher the
Ford.
night before, and she told me to fuck off. So I don't think she wants anything to do with
She asked
this.
for a singing scene. It was weird.
Where are these wonderful places you're going to drink?
I mean, if she told you to fuck off, was that out of kindness?
I would assume. I mean, we weren't doing tequila shots that night. We were doing Jaeger bombs, and it was probably about like 6 in, and we were arm wrestling, and then I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna make a movie with Harrison Ford," and she's told me to fuck off. So we'll have to go with someone else.
Okay. Anybody got any good ideas?
I would give you a good idea if I wrote down her name, but I did not. So, Google.
Joan Rivers.
Nancy Kerrigan.
How about Karen Allen?
Who?
I don't know. It was the first name that came into my head.
Just throwing names out there?
And she was in, she was in The Sandlot. I mean, that was afterwards, but...
You can't go back in time or forward in time. Wait a minute. Anyway.
She was in an Al Pacino movie called Cruising and Split Image. Movies I don't know.
She's good for punching people.
Yeah, she should punch Harrison Ford. So vicariously she can punch Nazis.
And then get locked in airplanes. Oh, does that sound good, gentlemen?
Why not? Let's give it a try.
It's definitely worth reading the first draft.
Yeah,
We'll see how it goes.
Let's see how the public likes it.
Yeah, this is just for Harrison for now, but if the public likes it, we'll see what happens.
So who are we gonna get to produce? I mean, we could leverage Lucas.
How about
Oh,
Spielberg?
I thought we were talking to Lucas. Oh, no.
How about Lucas and Spielberg?
Ooh, I like that. Let's do
Those
that.
names go good separately. Put them together. Kapow! Success.
Yeah. And we can get that Star Wars guy to do the music again.
Yes. I have the name Hans Christian Andersen stuck in my head, and that is not
it's
his
John
name.
Williams.
Thank you.
It's also not Hans Zimmer.
But yes, all the above. Boop, boop.
Yeah. And I feel like it would be a pretty easy pitch to be like, let's get Harrison Ford to punch some Nazis. We'll set it in fantastical. I mean, George Lucas is a big name at this point. But did he have anything to do with this, or am I just
Yeah, it
being
was
stupid?
originally Lucas and Spielberg's idea. They got together and came up with the whole spiel.
Okay.
And then they originally didn't want Harrison Ford because Lucas had just got done using him and didn't want to basically bring him into yet another thing because, people would get tired of him. It felt like it was just too easy to bring him over.
Yeah.
break him away from
Yep.
Han.
But he did such a damn good job. He just gave it to him anyways.
And if that weren't the case, I would definitely be blaming South Park for that, because they put Spielberg and Lucas together to redo Raiders.
Yep.
In the re-release where they replace the guns with walkie-talkies. Which is actually, whenever I want to watch this movie, it's because that scene pops in my head. That entire episode's just gold.
I still haven't seen that
But
ET
they
cut.
did that to
I
ET.
never saw that ET cut, but I always wanted to.
I watched it once, and that was it.
Yeah, that's an actual reference. It's a joke because they edited ET to make it more family friendly years after release. And I can't remember what cut it was, but they replaced digitally all of the fucking guns in the movie that the feds and the police had with fucking walkie-talkies.
Little side tangent. My favorite part of the DVD that had that cut also had a cut with the live orchestra playing with the movie. And my favorite part about that was the credit sequence that at the beginning comes up and everyone's cheering for every name. And then I think the editor came up and there was dead silence. And I was like, oh, what did you do?
Just random
Wow. That'd
tangent. Random
be
side note,
interesting.
you guys got to see the picture I just sent over because they literally edited out a whole shotgun and replaced it with a walkie-talkie. I mean,
My God.
Oh my.
I can't load anything
That's-
when I do this. I'll see it afterwards.
That's so good. Wow.
yeah.
All
Anyway.
right. Talking about what makes this movie likable or things that you enjoy about this movie, this is going to be fairly easy, I assume.
Yeah.
I'm going to start off just overall with the movie. It seems like a really good place to start. You start off with the movie. He goes, does his tomb raiding, solves some puzzles, gets backstabbed. Person who backstabs him gets his own. And then he gets out, and then he gets backstabbed, or Belloc ends up stealing the thing from him, and he barely escapes. Which is basically the entirety of the movie, again, done in a very short story. So they basically set up, here's the format that we're going to do for this story. And now we're going to do it much longer. And it's kind of a cool way to set up a movie and really set the Indiana Jones character exactly what he's all about and his strengths and weaknesses.
Oh, yeah, right from the get-go. I mean, he's running away from a tribe, keeping his cool in the temple and everything, and then boom, snake.
Yeah,
I mean, right from the get-go, you know this dude's afraid of something that a lot of people are.
Reggie, it's a snake. And you don't have to give it a origin of why he's
Just
scared of
is.
snakes.
Yeah.
It's just a normal fear.
It's really
that you can
nice.
have.
It's kind of refreshing not having somebody childhood experience and why they're traumatized of spiders. It's just, spiders are fucking creepy, man. I don't like them. Yeah.
Yep, this movie was definitely one of the catalysts for my fear of spiders, specifically the scene with all of the
Oh, for sure,
tarantulas.
for sure.
But they're fuzzy and
That
cute.
was great.
They're fuzzy and cute now, yes, but when I was 10 years old, that's terrifying. Being covered in giant spiders. No thanks. I'm good. Spiders can stay outside.
And I'm going to quick mention that even though in the series of Indiana Jones, they are not remaking each movie specifically, but Raiders of the Lost Ark, the intro sequence, has already been remade. It's in the movie UHF.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
The whole time I was watching it, I was like, that's where Silly Face is. That's where this happened.
He takes the idol and everything starts falling. He should have had a rock hit his head.
I will say the first thing that I noticed was whatever film they used, the opening credits into the beginning of the temple scenes just look they look different to me, and I don't know if it's because I was watching an HD stream or what, but it's just compared to some of the other movies from the same time, the cinematographic quality is much higher.
Oh, for sure. They definitely nail the cinematography, just the quality in general, but then also like the audio.
Oh my god,
is
that's one of the first things
like,
I was going to bring up is the audio.
So many of the movies we have is that like you can understand what he's saying at all time. There's not this weird audio fluctuation that masks the words that people are saying that were in a lot of the movies.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The sound design with THX still blows me away. I mean, there's still little things that catch off to the side on a single speaker in my setup, and it's just it's unreal to me.
It does help that a lot of this movie seems to have been shot on a soundstage.
Mm-hmm. You take that
or
back.
Something, because like there's a lot of obviously stage props.
No, it's all real. All of it.
We can get that into the not so good area, but it definitely helps that they were able to control the environment a little bit to get the better shots. I'm sure there's a different quality for when he's actually out in the woods and like in the Arab cities driving around. I'm betting there's a slightly different quality to the movie, but maybe not. I wasn't paying that close attention to how grainy the film was.
And sometimes grain is good. There's nothing wrong with grain.
Yeah. But also they probably went through and cleaned it up because that's what they do these days.
I like how the movie is based off of like serials or comics that they would have grown up with as kids, the filmmakers, and that it really embodies that style, even though it's a different medium. And that goes with the outlandishness of some of the action and stuff that comes with the movie. I thought that was really well presented in this film.
Agreed.
I agree. I got a bunch of other little tiny notes about the movie. Just that like you get iconic Indiana Jones scenes in the first 10 minutes of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
like, anytime after this movie has come out, like, you think Indiana Jones, you got him switching the idol with a bag of sand, you get him getting chased by a giant rock,
Yep.
like...
Yeah, you got Indiana Jones
doing
playing
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, the Nepal scene.
Yep.
I was surprised because the kid hadn't seen any Indiana Jones movie for probably, I'd say, the last 5-6 years. The last time that we went through the trilogy, and he specifically watched this one with me, and the whole time he's sitting there on pins and needles. He's like, when's the gunfight happen? When's the big fight happen? Because he was expecting that scene in Nepal because he had remembered it that vividly from the first time he watched it, even though it had been 5-6 years ago. Like, beat for beat, he was pumped.
Are we talking about the infamous scene where he was sick and then he just shoots the
No,
guy with
that's
the sword,
Egypt.
or-
No, the Nepal scene is where the bar shootout. Like, he was so excited to see that shootout again.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. That is pretty early in the movie.
Funny enough, he did say that he wishes that the fight scene would have happened, but obviously it's a much funnier turnout. I love the way that worked out.
And then when he goes visits Balak in Egypt and the monkey steals his gun and he doesn't use his gun for the rest of the movie. Little things
and
like
then
that.
it's like a slow burn for the rest of the trilogy. The next time he goes to do this, he reaches for his gun and his holster's empty. So I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah, there's a lot of things they got very right with this movie and then carried on to the series, such as like the theme music matched up with the map and the red line. It's very iconic to the series, and on top of it, it makes you feel like an adventure is about to happen or is in the process of happening.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's definitely outlines the fact that he's on a trip around the world to do all this stuff. So it widens the scope of the movie. It makes it actually feel like you're going places. And it's actually like going on an adventure, which is really cool.
That and the movie doesn't sit around too long to tell you anything. At most, it took 2 scenes for introducing the U.S. government men and then hey, they agreed to send you overseas. Pack your bags. That was like the slowest part of the movie. There's a scene where he's teaching a class, moves to army men, told he's going to go overseas, and then he goes.
Him teaching the class is one of the most confusing things I have because I'm always so bored and I can never tell you what he's talking about that. But all the girls in that class seem to think that he's some sort of sex pot. And I don't understand why they think that. Sorry, that might be in things I don't like, but it's also really nice to think
I don't know.
So it is.
I appreciate it because my wife ran out of the room and immediately came back in, sat on the couch with "I love you" eyes, and it made me laugh.
Aw,
I know.
Dan?
Oh, we're hitting on a bunch of notes that I already have, so I can't really add anything. Unless
sure
we jump.
you can. What about Marion? When they first introduce her, she's amazing. She's a little spitfire. She punches Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm.
She can stand on her own 2 feet. When it comes to Indiana Jones, unfortunately, it's only because of Indiana Jones that she can do that. Any other time, she's crying out for Indiana Jones, which is, I guess, the negative part. Like, they don't keep her as strong and independent the entire time.
I didn't even catch that until you said that, so
As much as she tries.
that makes me sad now, Ken. I realize you're right.
I mean, she is kind of, she's a planner. She knows how to use her charm and skills to get out of situations. And I think it's the case of, she's not designed to be equal to Indiana Jones. So they kind of they felt like they had to, hobble her a little bit. Because otherwise, Marion as a character is really freaking awesome. She's a single woman running a bar in Nepal.
And out drinking a lot of
And
people.
she can drink the guys under the table, which
that
is great.
alone is huge. So, I mean, yeah, the fact that she ends up tied up and in a basket for 3/4 of the movie sucks. But
Yeah.
it's not Marion and the Lost Ark.
Right. I guess she doesn't, just because she is strong and all that fun stuff, doesn't necessarily mean that she is stronger than people who are going to be carrying her around. She has her cunning, which is her strong suit.
Yeah, but she is a wonderful addition to this movie.
She really is. I do.
Yeah,
like
I
her
can't imagine
character
this
a
movie
lot.
without her.
And then Indy's friend, who I'm not entirely certain how he knows his friend.
Oh, Sallah, yes.
Sallah. Sallah's great.
Sallah's, again, just one of those characters that just rounds out the movie and makes it. I can't imagine the movie without him either. Like, obviously, for reasons, it makes sense for the story-wise. He wasn't in Temple of Doom, but I'm glad that he came back in Last Crusade, and we at least got to see his character one more time. Because, yeah, I left Raiders of the Lost Ark loving his character, loving his interaction, his relationship and history with Indy. Just, it's like a sidekick, but a smart sidekick. I freaking loved it.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, we could go on at how cool a Nazi monkey is and stuff like that, or how they have just the different ways in which they keep action moving in the film and whatnot. We know we like those things. So what are the things that don't work so well in this movie?
Submarine. I'm 32 and I still don't get it.
How does Indy survive hundreds of miles underwater on the top of a submarine?
I still don't get it.
You assume they went underwater. They didn't go underwater. That's the only thing that could have happened. Or else he puts his, or else they're just below the water and he like hooks his whipper on it and just hangs on for dear life. But yeah, that's a big problem for me whenever I'm watching movies. Like, what, they didn't submerge. So that's like the most. I feel like submarines are a lot more efficient when they're traveling under the water, and that's the point of a submarine, is to be under the water, not being seen.
It's in the name.
Oh.
But otherwise, I feel like they're just using it like a regular boat.
You mean a U-boat?
I found it. Everybody.
Yes.
It was a cut scene that was crucial to the understanding of how he survived. In the script, it says, exactly. In the script, it says, Indy climbs the ladder to the top of the turret and braces himself between the two uprights there, the 7-foot radio mast and the 20-foot periscope. Still, the ocean comes up to meet him. Soon the top of the turret is underwater and the radio mast is disappearing. Indy shifts his grip to the periscope, working his way up and hanging on for dear life as the ocean whips at his body. The periscope is quickly going under. Indy hangs on the top 3 feet, all that remains above the water.
Gotcha. So he's hanging onto the periscope the whole time.
Yeah, so the sub only really went about 17 feet below the water for the rest of the trip.
Yeah, it doesn't have to go too deep, but in order to stop the wave cavitations pushing against the boat, they have to go under the water somewhat.
Yeah. So that explains it.
So good on Indy to be able to hang on to a periscope mast for, hours.
Yeah.
Well, it also says no more periscope goes under. Indy smiles. It's a pretty good smile too, given the circumstances. Indy pulls out his bullwhip and begins tying himself to the periscope.
Yep. Yeah, like I was saying.
Okay.
The whip is
I guess that was kind of necessary.
Anyway.
Why they cut it?
That is.
Oh my god!
Know.
There's actually an image. There's a single image. Gentlemen, feast your eyes. We have an answer after all these years. Boom! There's Indy.
That's amazing. He's not wearing a hat though. That makes me sad.
He didn't actually have his hat. I noticed that when he swam over.
When
he swam over to the sub, his hat was missing. He didn't have time to grab his hat or his jacket or any of that stuff.
But he did grab his whip because it's always there.
Absolutely.
Gotta make sure you got that whip. It's the most useful thing he has.
Yeah.
The other thing that really got me was during the fight scene with the flying wing. After all the fight scene and the big Nazi getting blendered by the propellers, Indy shoots the cockpit glass to unlock the cockpit. Now, the glass doesn't break. There's no shattering. There's no bullet holes. There's no nothing.
Wait, hold on.
He shoots.
Does he shoot the glass? Because I swear he shot the lock next to the glass, the lock that was actually on the wing.
The lock is inside the cockpit.
The lock is inside the cockpit.
He just kind of shoots the plane.
Also, that was the weakest gunshot sounds ever. At that scene.
I didn't make the comment. That was all Ken. I didn't make the comment.
That
but
gun
I know it came from you,
has
Dan.
various gunshot noises the entire movie, and also
Yes, it does.
never needs to be reloaded.
Yeah.
Nope. It's a revolver. They don't reload.
Speaking
The bullets
on
just
sound
appear.
design, while I could sit here and inflate whoever the sound designer's ego was all day, I understand it was a different time, and I understand they were going for something, but nowadays, I'm so sick and tired of the old school loud ass punch sounds. I can't take it anymore. It's so rough.
We're also talking about sound design. Can we talk about reused Star Wars sound effects?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, the laser bolt blast. I mean, it's Lucasfilm, so obviously they're going to bring over some assets, but
The engine misfiring.
that's what I'm talking
in
about.
Star Wars.
That's what I'm talking about. The engine misfiring
that they used in the airplane, and then they used another one when the generator goes nuts after they open the Ark. I stopped keeping track. It just.
In the truck chase scene, when he rams a vehicle, the truck growls.
Hmm.
It's like, "Roar."
Well,
like,
I
what?
would expect it to.
Is that the same scene where they run over one of the people who are hanging on the truck, and then after the truck's already passed, the arms and legs flail up from behind the rocks?
They did what they could with the time, Ken.
Okay. It's just that part always cracks me up just because it's such a delayed response to the truck running him over.
It's a little off. It's fun. It makes you giggle, but yeah, it's definitely not realistic.
Right, if they would have done that while the truck was running over him, it would definitely have been like, oh yeah, the truck didn't run over him. He's laying right next to the truck.
Yeah.
Nah,
It's obvious he's not under the vehicle at all.
He just missed his cue. It's fine.
But that's what makes this movie able to be watched at a younger age than others.
You
Final
say
Season.
that about a movie with melting people at the end.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely goes into one of my favorites. It was definitely an alarming scene when I first watched it younger, but now as a adult, it's just
still
so
alarming.
great.
Oh yeah, it's alarming. That's for sure.
I just watch it as like thinking about what they made the faces out
Yeah.
of.
Yeah, there's
and
How
a
they
whole
did the cuts and all that
how
stuff.
long it took them.
there's a whole
heat it
behind the
up.
scenes on that, and there's a whole like documentary that delves into that. It's interesting to watch if you get around to it.
Nice. I'll have to look it up.
But yeah, it's unsettling as it should be. outside of the submarine and outside of the sound design, in terms of the punching and a couple of stolen assets, well, borrowed assets, I should say, I can't think of crazily anything else that comes to mind.
There is a distinct lack of Sean Connery.
That's The Last Crusade.
Doesn't matter.
That you can't criticize it for that.
Okay,
I'm gonna.
At this point in the game, he wasn't even part of the series.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the sound stages, I guess. When he's doing the jump over of the rock pit, and he's hanging off the edge.
Yeah.
You see his legs flailing. He kicks a painter's tarp and the rocks start flailing.
Yeah. I always thought that the spider web was kind of a net look to it.
There's that.
Yeah. There's little things like that.
When he goes into the temple, which the Christians stored their ark in a temple full of Anubis, which is weird. There's also a lot of snakes in there, and there's like maybe 2 or 3 of them are moving. The rest are all rubber snakes, just coiled and piled in a lump. This is before he starts them on fire, because then it would make sense because they're all dead. So like there are a couple of things on the set design, like where he's digging the thing up and you got the storms behind him. It's very stylized. I think that's what they were going for. Indiana Jones didn't look like he was actually in the storm, but
it looks a little rough now. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks rough now, but it's also, I think, the stylized. I'm not entirely certain what kind of film that is, but the kind of film that Sky Captain tried to emulate and ended up overdoing.
So that sky reminds me of Poltergeist because they have a similar effect in that movie.
Yes.
And
rolling cloud front.
When they open the Ark, that's also rather poltergeisty in that way too.
Oh. You should say Poltergeist reminds you of this movie because Poltergeist came out the year after. Also, I haven't seen that movie.
And Steven Spielberg, quote unquote, didn't direct Poltergeist in any way, shape, or form.
But he did the story and helped with the screenplay and produced it.
It's been hotly debated for years that he was kind of handsy when it came to wanting to direct certain portions and scenes. Like he just was itching to direct, and the director was just telling him no constantly because it was his movie. But there's speculation that some scenes were in fact directed by Steven Spielberg.
Some things that I consider kind of rough about Raiders of the Lost Ark, even though it's a good thing that they captured the essence of the serial or comics, the bad part with that is that these serials played up American exceptionalism because that was their audience. That was basically what they did. So in turn, this movie minimalizes local people and culture, glorifies the removal of artifacts from their home countries and taking them away to America in this case.
I mean, yeah, for sure. Definitely glorifies stealing other people's cultures, which is
yeah,
probably not something we should go about doing.
And along with that, all the speaking roles in the Egypt scenes went to white people. No real people from that part of the world had speaking roles. So, for instance, Sallah is Welsh. He's a Welsh actor. And then they went to a wise man to get the amulet checked out. That is a Norwegian gentleman playing that role. So, a little bit of...
Product of its time.
Yep. I mean, this it's...
Doesn't
it's
necessarily
well-known.
make it right.
It doesn't make it right, but that's what happened in films is made by Americans, is that they don't hire people from other cultures to speak, basically. So it has that going on. And on top of it, none of the characters grow during the movie. None of them make any huge character shifts. They are who they are.
Yeah, and it's kind of disappointing for Indy, too, because they set it up in the beginning of the movie that he doesn't believe in that superstitious mumbo jumbo, and like he just kind of like brushes off Brody's comments about being precautious in the beginning when he's loading up to go out. And after everything he went through, and then to have that supernatural experience at the end of the film, you think that would have changed him in some way, or he would have felt something towards that? But I don't know, because he totally at the beginning of the film makes it sound like he's never experienced anything like that before.
And I mean, that's the closest thing we have to a dynamic character, is that he, at the end, recognizes something's going to happen and that you need to shut your eyes until it's done. That's the only growth that really happens in the movie, character-wise.
How do you guys feel about the argument that this movie doesn't even really need Indiana Jones to be in this movie?
I mean, theoretically, yes, because Belloc would open the Ark either way and still die. So the only difference is that the Ark wouldn't have found its way into quote safety in the basement of some U.S. warehouse. So
I am fully on board that is one of the coolest endings that anyone could have written for.
Yes,
that was my
item.
last favorite thing note for this movie was that warehouse scene. And then was it the early 2010s? There was a TV series that was based out of that warehouse, and they make reference to the Ark.
Huh.
Oh, right.
God, was that warehouse? Oh, what was the name of that TV series?
Was that the one that was Doctor Who adjacent?
Warehouse 13.
Oh, yep.
Was the name of the series. It ran from July 2009 to May 2014 on Sci-Fi. Described as part X-Files, part Raiders of the Lost Ark, and part moonlighting.
Moonlighting? Weird.
Yeah, moonlighting.
Anyway.
Yeah, anyway. Ultimately, apart from modern day take on the movie with its exceptional, the way that it was created, all that fun stuff. Generally speaking, it's a really well made movie. They put a lot of thought into the way things should run, like keeping the monkey being evil, but also like the way it plays out. The monkey could have gotten caught several times being evil, but nobody was paying attention to it until like it narcs out Marion, but then it's still...
All of the bad guys died in the end.
All of them?
All of the bad guys died in the end.
Oh yeah, I suppose. That was great. They killed all the bad guys. It's a really well-made movie. It's well put together, well thought out, and it's definitely a movie I go back to and watch quite often. I actually watched this a couple months ago just because South Park.
Definitely checks the holds up box for me.
So that's 2 for holds up. Andy?
Oh, yeah, there's no way I can go back and watch this movie without a smile on my face. I love this movie. It makes me feel a sense of wonder, because, I don't know, a lot of Spielberg films did that for me as a child and still continue to. So.
And I agree, this movie does hold up.
Yeah, it's hard to say no to this.
The HD upconvert, I think, did some good things for it, except, as always, when you make things HD that weren't HD to begin with, you see some of the faults a little bit easier. But I do like that you don't see the reflection of the light in the window that separates the characters from the snakes.
Yes, I noticed that this time around. Thank you for bringing that up.
I didn't notice that ever. What?
You could always see the reflection of the light.
That's an old Indiana trope. The Cobra is not nearly as close as it is that close, but there is a significant level of protection between both Marion and Indy.
Because
awesome.
How else are you going to film a live Cobra between the two actors like that? It's just, yeah.
Did you guys also notice that when they're in that temple and the snakes are pouring out of the wall and Indiana's like, hey, let's go through that wall. Where the snakes are coming out of the wall is a big smiley face.
No.
It's supposed to be a skull.
But speaking of that, did you guys also catch the R2-D2 hieroglyphic?
I missed it.
Yes.
I miss it every time. I know it exists.
It's there. It's R2 and C-3PO.
There's one other thing I remembered that I like about this movie, and it's another one of those little things. It's the where he's got the pendant in his hand, and there's like the burn mark in his hand. They rebuild the thing off that burn mark. And they don't get the right spot because he's only got half of the information that he needs.
Yeah, that was clever.
It's just a wonderful bit of attention to detail.
Yeah.
It's a very clever way of building the movie.
Yeah, no, that was absolutely great. And then on the flip side of that, I'd say a negative thing would maybe be the map room. The way the sun just quickly rises into that room.
Yeah, the time from him putting the thing in there to the sun adjusting to the exact spot it needs to go, and then it stays there for a while. Like that is a bit much. And then it illuminates the room like no end. So he actually doesn't know where the thing was lighting up from. It was really bright. How could he see it?
Yeah.
That's pedantic. He's making jokes.
Well, in this case, we're not going to cover the reboot because we'll probably have a full episode episode dedicated to going over what has already been done in what I'll call a reboot of the series and what possibly is still yet to come because they say they want to make more.
Yeah, and I really want you to have a fresh take after seeing Kingdom of the Crystal Skull to see where you feel things are going to go, how they could go, all that good stuff. Like,
I have an idea.
There's just so much to talk about with that, seriously.
Well, we have 2 more movies we got to watch first.
Yep,
we'll get there.
I'm actually thoroughly excited to go back and watch Temple of Doom because I feel like it gets a really bad rap, but it's an amazing movie.
What?
I love it.
Well, this time we have unearthed Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark. We rewound it and we didn't reboot it really, but I kind of mentioned a scene that got rebooted, I guess. So if you could like, comment, subscribe, that would help our YouTube algorithm and any other sort of algorithm out there. If you could share this episode or other episodes with your friends, your loved ones, your enemies who may also like 80s movies, it would help us greatly. And then come back in 2 weeks where we will talk Unsolved Mysteries and reboot it with you. Oh, we'll rewind it too.
I was gonna assume that we were gonna rewind it at least.
Thanks, Dan.
That's
I
part of
appreciate
the title, you know.